Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let's move on to our final panel session of the day, entitled Helping Entrepreneurs Win 2021. This is session 3. Who is clear about digital marketing cost transparency and results? Moderating this session, join me as I welcome back a man who doesn't need any introduction. He's been with me so many days. Raymond Siva, Senior Vice President, Investment and Brand, also the Chief Marketing Officer of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Over to you, Raymond.
Good evening. Selamat petang. Salam sejahtera. I love the batik, Hasrul. It matches your salt and pepper hairdo. It's coming up really nicely. My beard too. Listen, thank you everybody for joining us here today. This is Series 3, Week 4. Malaysia Tech Month. So, almost 30 days non-stop. It's been a grind getting content out to all of you out there. And today in Series 3, that is being co-curated by Marketing Magazine, I have another great 2 speakers. Finally, I have a woman on my panel, right? So that's fantastic. And it is a pleasure to welcome Ayesha Adam. 11 years of experience. Ayesha's social media management infuses a blend of tech, data, and creativity. She's worked with the brands like Facebook, Spotify, Puma, Cellcom, Dettol, and many others, right? Now she's head of social in MNC Saatchi. Welcome, Ayesha.
Hello, thanks for having me here.
And we have Jamshed all the way from Singapore. Thank you again for making some time. Jamshed Wadia has over 20 years of expertise spanning leadership roles across marketing, digital centers of excellence, digital transformation, OEM and channel sales, and P&L management. Worked as a marketing director for 17 years in Intel. That's a long time, sir, right? And very, very happy to have you here. So we have 2 different perspectives here. Who is clear about transparency in digital and social, right? That's an interesting question that in my current role, I ask my team and I ask my agencies, as we're running Malaysia Tech Month, I want more data and more clarity around what's going on. Hasrul has been here for a month and he'll tell you that, the conversations that we had are very tough conversations. So I want to start perhaps with the lady, right? Ayesha, you are coming in from the clients, from the agency side, dealing with a lot of clients, and I see the big names in here, right? Tell me a little about some of the issues that clients tell you, right? What are some of the things that you keep hearing from them in terms of data and transparency?
I think mostly is like when we say we need to achieve a certain target, or there is a certain number in mind that we need to achieve. But at the same time, we have to also take into consideration, like, who are those people? Are those people the people that we want to talk to? Are those people the ones that will engage with the product or with the brand? And those numbers sometimes don't tally. Sometimes we do get like a lot of strays, or we put for example, the creative or the ad on a website that's, you can get numbers from that website, but can you get like results or impressions, or will people see it and actually engage or find it relevant? So those are kind of the questions that we need to be asking in order to get that transparency and get those numbers, true numbers, or lead. When we talk about leads, we talk about like when we talk about leads, we talk about the true leads. Those kind of numbers that we want, like real numbers that we can use.
That's a very, very interesting point, because I want to jump now to Jamshed, and really I just want to add on here that Jamshed has been recognized among the top 50 most influential people in the Asia region by The Drum, listed as among the 100 smartest digital marketing leaders by the World Digital Marketing Congress, and top 500 most influential communication leaders globally by PR Week. Very, very good credentials here, Jamshed. But you have worked internally as the head honcho for marketing in no less than a brand like Intel, right? Do clients, do we know what we want before we rat on the agency? And what should we be looking at?
Yeah, a great question. And first of all, I'm really happy to be here. Hope everybody's safe and staying healthy. I think one of the things that I want to unravel first is data-driven, or we keep saying data-driven marketing or data-driven organization. I want to change that to insights-driven, because data is a plenty, but insights is a very little. And data doesn't mean anything, but data converted into insights means a lot. And I think that is the big step that a lot of organizations, agencies miss. I just wanted to get that, first of all, off the gate. The second thing I feel is that I can totally understand and empathize with agencies, and what some of Ayesha said is that I feel that there are lots of issues at the marketing brands side itself in terms of, first of all, objective. We're jumping too much into vanity metrics before we really know what we want to actually achieve. And depending on our objective, whether it's a brand objective, whether it's a lead objective, whether it's a conversion objective, just an awareness objective, or just community building, it all depends on what you want to do with it. And I think that should be upfront in terms of our conversation, because if is settled really well upfront, then I think all those questions in terms of you did this wrong and we did this wrong and why the numbers not tallying, etc., will rise up as issues. So first of all, I think just the role of marketing and what we want to achieve and objectives need to be right off the gate, very, very clear. So I think the onus is completely on the brand on that. The other thing is just the org culture. I talked about insights. How much is insights really appreciated top to bottom in the organization? And do we just want insights as vanity metrics, or do we want to understand things like how much marketing is actually moving the needle on revenue? And so it all depends on how detailed you want to go from a measurement perspective.
I think that is a really spot on insight from you, right? And in my experience in corporate boards, having been an agency myself, is that marketing or the CMO, the head of digital, social, the head of PR are usually disconnected, right? Because when a brand manager or marketing manager says, I've got a campaign to run, I'm going to be geared towards getting my brand equity out there to get convert that into sales, right? That if I'm for instant noodles, for example, my marketing numbers means sales basically, right? And also my brand awareness index as I compare to the others. But on the PR part, is you're looking at crisis communication, you're looking at others, and then digital social is really a performance marketing, right? And that's a new word really over the last 3 years, performance marketing, right? So Ayesha, looking at this, because I'm sure that your clients will cut across these 3 different divisions, right?
Yeah.
Or I may be wrong, or do you deal with one? And really, when you're talking to them, what kind of discussions come out here? What kind of metrics are they looking for?
Exactly. We have amongst our clients, we work with different departments for each of the brands. Some of them are like corporate comm. Some of those people are specific digital-led creatives or digital suits. And then we also have like the sales team who, basically want those end numbers, wants those conversions, right? So we do deal with multiple, and you can see that the sort of numbers that they're looking at are different. The corporate comm people, not to generalize, but usually want engagement, they want fans, they want numbers, those kind of vanity kind of metrics, which in the long run don't really help to the end game, unless your end game is basically to show that my brand has more fans than your brand,
Right.
Yeah, so those kind of numbers differ depending on which department is actually leading the charge for those numbers.
Jamshed, having been inside, and I'm sure Intel's got to be, I bring up the name, I shouldn't too much, but having these different divisions as we talk about, can you talk through your experience in terms of when you talk about data and insights? How are your other colleagues, how are the other departments within your previous organization or some of the companies that you're consulting to right now? What are you telling them to do?
Sure. So during my experience at Intel, we were pretty integrated in that sense, because the onus of the data and the insights was on a team that was sitting under the Center of Excellence, and still sits under the Center of Excellence, and that is not biased or doesn't work for any particular marketing organization, but sits in the Center of Excellence. So that biasness is not there. They report completely the facts and etc. And that is the data and insights warehouse for all things marketing. And so I think that kind of solves the problem. I've seen that in startups and in companies that I'm consulting right now, is that where things are more integrated, the challenges are lesser. In terms of just talking about the siloed activities, the way I look at it is as a marketer is that what we're trying to do as marketers are just trying to touch the hearts, minds, and wallets of our customers. And that has to be done in sequence and in conjunction. You can't just have something that touches someone's heart and emotionally connects with them, and then you don't do anything about it. And I think that sequence has to be followed. And that is the reason why I feel that a campaign has two elements and pillars, and someone has to kind of integrate it across the organization. And that is a super helpful function sometimes, is to have just integrators between organizations. And then you run a completely either a full funnel or a well-lit sequential campaign.
So I wanna just build on that for a bit. Do you say touch or do you say tug at the heart, minds, and wallet? I don't know, right? Because is touching enough these days, or is it tugging? There's a plethora of messages coming to you from different ways, right?
Yeah, I think that's the debate of the performance marketing angle. I just read something really very interesting, is that people think that performance marketing is growth marketing, and actually performance marketing is just SEO and running ads that are very specifically down the funnel. And growth marketing actually is doing a more full funnel kind of demand generation, and that all these are subset of marketing. And the reason why it's becoming so popular is because when startups hire marketing, they equate marketing to performance management. And so in smaller organizations, marketing is all about performance management. I try to educate as many people as possible, especially when I talk to founders, is that, performance management is a very small subset of your marketing. Yes, it's good to get subscriptions and for your app or essentially product or services. But at the end of the day, you're looking for a growth marketer, and then you're looking for a more seasoned full service marketer. And so I think that is the challenge that we have. And that's I think if done properly, I feel that you still need to just nudge in the right direction. And if you do a great job of connecting with them emotionally, winning their mind over in terms of the benefits of your product, getting the money out of the wallet is far more easier. You don't have to tug.
So back to you, Ayesha, because I think that's a very interesting thing that a lot of companies are looking at right now, right? And Jamshed, you strung together a number of words in there, right? Performance marketing, growth hacking is what I've heard as well, and other metrics in there. So Ayesha, a lot of our managers, our in-house, our execs and all that, they don't live these words on a daily basis. There's other pressures for them to do as well, right? Yeah. So I mean, you go and hey, listen, we're going to do growth marketing and growth hacking, and then they have no clue what's going on. You tell them SEO, they have some clue what's going on, right? Yeah. So I mean, and these are real problems are being faced by startups and by brands and so on. They struggle to find the right sort of agency, and so to that point, right? I have an issue previously, not now, that if you pay me 5 or 10,000 ringgit, I guarantee you 5 million impressions, right? Something like that to that number. It's not right. Can you talk us through what is this? What is this? I can guarantee you 5 million. Are you guys gaming the system?
Yeah, exactly. They are actually, if you put I can guarantee you that number, at the end of the day, you kind of back yourself into a corner where you need to, even if the creatives are not working, even if the viral video didn't go viral, you still need to guarantee that 5 million. So what do? You put it on marketplace, you open it to more ad prospects, and therefore not really going where the audience that you wanted to target is, but now you're opening it up to audience that you maybe, really does not have anything to do with your brand. So you are just getting it for the sake of getting those impressions, but not not getting what the brand really needs, which is the value that those ads should have brought.
And so that brings me then to my next question in terms of top of the funnel and tofu, mofu, and sofu and all that, right? Jamshed, back to you. So this is interesting for me because from marketing point of view, right? We are looking to create a funnel, but then, also on the PR side, a digital side, they're also looking to create a funnel, right? But more on the marketing part, I'm more interested in rich data. I want to get that who's coming in here, so I know whether it's male, female, from where, how much it is spending, and so on and so forth. But it's almost a little different from digital campaigns. I'm not saying it's not. So digital marketing speaks to that, but a digital campaign can go into, like you said earlier on, many things, right? Community building, conversions, and so on. And PR, on the other hand, provides the overall long tail view, right? So in terms of numbers, from an internal point of view, what should marketeers be looking at? Number one. And number two, who owns that data? I mean, who should be the, you have a COE in Intel, but really who should be owning that data so that we can drive it across disciplines?
Yeah, I think let me take the data question first. Who should own it? I think this is where younger, smaller companies have an advantage, because a lot of companies that I have worked for have been there for a very long time, and we've not had a digital age before. And so the data has always been in silos. Today, if you're a young company, your experience is your product, and your data is your insights. And right from the get-go, you can make sure that the data sits in one central experience team, or in one central unbiased team. So that's very easy to do. And that actually is digital disruption. Everything else that all the other brands are doing is transformation, because they're transforming their old systems into new systems. So that becomes where the problem is, that in most organizations, data is owned where the data is. So for example, I'll explain to you. Say for sales guy, he has his own sales data, then they become the owners. If marketing guys run a campaign, they become the owners. If they run a media campaign, if the social guys run communities, they have the data. And that becomes the challenge, is that all this data sits in very siloed and disparate sources. And so one of the things that companies do is to buy good MarTech solutions that kind of help stitch all the data together to create one identity of a customer. And that itself is a big project for any organization from a transformation perspective, is to get a unified view of the customer. Once you have the MarTech investments to do that in terms of finding your unified customer, finding out if that customer went to your website or visited your social page, or how did they travel in your organization as a journey, is far easy to figure out. But you have to make those MarTech investments. Otherwise, you're just going to be sending out Excel sheets. First of all, it's very insecure, and sometimes it's against regulations to actually send customer data in that format. In fact, a lot of governments are now regulating that you have to store your data in cloud that is in the country itself. So there are lots of regulations in this space. So you have to make those MarTech investments to have one customer view.
So this is interesting, right? So Martin Sorrell, S4, has pivoted to say that look at first-party data, right? He's very clear with that, right?
Yeah.
All the things that he's bought recently also speaks towards, look at first-party data.
Yes.
He talks about no pitching. He doesn't want to go to a pitch. He said, get a small project from a company, get in there, use the data, and then figure out creative, and then watch distribution.
Yes.
Right? Basically, to push it out. So it seems a rather simple, linear kind of thinking, right?
Yeah.
But many agencies don't quite do that. And I've personally experienced that as well, right? From an internal as well as external, because we go in there, we are quite prescriptive, right? Clients wants this, we give them that, right? We don't go a little bit data and say, where is your first party? Can I look at your data? Can I help you do that? And how do we do that? And so then we land in this problem about, hey, why am I not getting any results?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not mining the data, like you said, the people that we have touched previously, right? Yeah. So Ayesha, I really want to get your views about, as we build the top of the funnel, right? Please talk us through what is impressions, what is reach, and how is that being converted? Because there's still a lot of confusion about, I'll give you 5.4 million impressions, your reach is 3 million, but the click-through rate is 2.7%. Or something like that, right? And then people go scratching and saying, "Alamak, what is this?" Right?
Yeah.
Can you walk us
through that? Sounds like pretty much basic, the breakdown of calculations, right? So reach is actually how many people you've reached, individual people. So impressions is actually how many times did those people actually see your post or your ad?
Give me an
Therefore,
example
you
on
can-
Facebook. Give me an
Yeah,
example.
for example of Facebook, you have a Facebook post. Your Facebook post reached 2 million people, but the impressions was 3 million. So 1 million people actually saw it more than once. That's basically the rough maths of it. And then on that post itself, how many people actually engaged with it? How many people actually liked the post, engaged with it, commented, maybe clicked on the photo? So all those kind of metrics also are tracked. Even basically, how long did that person stay on that post? That also in some platforms actually that also counts as engagement as well. Even if they lingered on it, thumb stopping power. Yeah, and basically it's just the links clicks to your website, and then what did they do on that website? So those all break down to like smaller numbers.
So since we have the both of you here, I want to start with Ayesha on this one. How would you define success for a campaign?
Success on the campaign is basically based on what was the intention of the campaign in the first place. So I think that is the point that is still very loosey-goosey in the brands nowadays. They sort of like, I want conversion, but at the same time, I want impressions. At the same time, I want brand love. Everything is all chunked into one campaign. One campaign cannot do everything. You need different strategies to approach different metrics, different numbers. If you want reach, you go with, maybe we do influencers, maybe we do, branded postings or things like that to actually get that reach. But if we want like a conversion, we wouldn't do influencers. We would do Lazada, those kind of different e-commerce campaigns, remarketing, retargeting, those kind of aggressive conversion, like buy me now campaigns. So it really depends on what was the objective going into the campaign, and at the end of the campaign, did we reach the what we wanted to do? And I really don't, I really prefer if there was like one main objective. Rather, it can be like a byproduct, like the secondary or third objective, but we go with one that we really wanted to achieve.
Jamshed, how does that look for you from an internal point of view?
Yeah, I think our you have to measure one, and you have to optimize on one, and the rest will follow. See, I'll give an example. If your entire campaign is about getting clicks on your video, or you're essentially optimizing on the cost per video click, then you buy media based on that, and you optimize media based on that. Then based on that, your impressions and your reach and how much they're targeted will follow by itself. So you got to standardize on your metric. Wherever possible, you should try and see if you can get attribution. And attribution is either when you have a conversion. So if you are lucky to have a campaign where you're doing right up to the e-com vendor, where someone is clicking on your social post and then it's going on an e-com vendor, or it's on an e-com vendor and then going into a shopping cart, and then there's a conversion. If you can get the last mile conversion, I would say that you optimize on the conversion. If you can't get that, then you get the most effective action, cost per action, and optimize on that cost per action. And then if you have the right threshold of audiences, and Ayesha will know this in terms of different platforms have different thresholds to do attitudinal measures. You measure if there is any uplift in terms of either a brand perception or product perception. You do an A/B test in terms of figuring out if they were exposed to the campaign and non-exposed to the campaign, if there was any attitudinal shift or perception shift that you had, if you can't measure the sale. So I would say that those are advanced metrics are how can we use to measure campaigns, and I would recommend that strongly to any brand to do that.
Right. Ayesha, back to you on this one. When you talk about this, how would you say a client should optimize their campaign? What does that mean to you?
Optimizing. So when we talk about optimizing, it's basically, I feel it needs to have either A/B testing. We test, plan A and plan B, which one works better, then we go for that. If there is only one creative and only one target audience, how are we supposed to optimize this? You don't actually leave room for improvement because we are set on, oh, we need to target, 25 to 36, but then the people who are engaging with it are 36 to 45. So should we optimize to actually target these people instead? But no, the brand wants to target this group of target audience, right? So I feel like mostly with brands, they're already set. I want these people, I want this messaging, and then I want these numbers, right? But you don't really leave room for error or for optimization if that's the case.
So that brings me to a good question, Jamshed. Should we always do a sense check, a reality check, a poll before we embark on a big campaign? Should I have done this before I did Malaysia Tech Month and run a 2-week poll and see what are people saying and are they interested in that topics?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. Just to add on to that is that optimization helps you make media decisions, creative decisions, and it could also make you take decisions about very specific medium. So you can optimize if you just have one creative, but you have to switch the medium. Say, for example, you're doing a campaign on just Facebook. Optimization there for just one creative means is that try another medium, maybe a Twitter or a TikTok, and see if that's working better. That's optimization there. But if you have optimization within a medium, then it's about changing the creative or changing the exposure, etc. So those are kind of optimizations you can do. And optimization has to be try and do it in real time. And sometimes you have to have even, advanced buyers do optimization automated. They know what the goal is. And so the optimization algorithm kind of adjusts based on that goal so that they get the maximum amount in that goal so that it's optimized. But yeah, I mean, if you embark on anything, you have to do some form of dip test. But if you don't do creative testing, you can switch around creatives very early in the campaign if it's not working. And hence you have to have options. And a more advanced thing, and maybe some people may not be doing it, but I know advanced brands do it, is data DCOs, which is content optimizations. Essentially where the creative changes automatically based on the algorithm. So, or it could change based on, say, for example, it's a shoe ad and it's raining, say, or it's a sunny weather, then automatically the creative will change by the weather because it's tracking the GPS signals of where the people are. And so it's taking external inputs to optimize the creative. And so that's another additional angle to do that. So optimization is the many kinds of optimization that can be done to achieve a single goal. But having one goal is very important because you can't optimize on multiple things. You can only optimize, you have to have one pivot around which you maneuver everything else.
Right. So 2 more questions I want to ask before it goes off my mind. Firstly, when clients, Jamshed, you and I on this side of the fence are saying, let's write a brief for our agency. I've seen briefs come to me and so have I written briefs as well. What can we do to educate our team members? Because the reality is that what you said just now over the last 5 minutes, not very many clients have that kind of understanding. It is early to what Ayesha says, these are my target audience, this is what I want, the board has agreed to it, the CEO wants that, it just has to be done, right? I'm going to measure it with them, right? How are we going to educate them internally to write the briefs that we want, like you said, right? And Ayesha, on your part, after Jamshed answers, is that the jumping around from talents, from agency to agency is also mind-blowing, right? I've got people, and I don't say the age is a problem, but then people as young as 23, 24, coming and telling me this is what they should or should not be done. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but jumping around gets into a senior manager position or digital, whatever account manager position, telling us what to do without really knowing the subject matter, right? So it seems that both sides sometimes is duck and chicken talk, right? So Jamshed, to you first, what can we do in terms of writing a proper brief to say data is critical, there must be some transparency in how I'm engaging with you, Mr. Agency. What should go into a brief?
I think before you go to a brief, you got to do a little bit of education. If they're calling themselves digital marketing experts, then you have to have skill sets in all pillars of the digital marketing. And so what are different content formats? What are different content delivery formats? What are different media metrics? What is vanity metrics? What is attitudinal measures? And what are conversions? And how do you optimize media? How do you use data and convert into insights? I think you have to have a steady understanding of all those things. And I think right now we still are in a world where we have digital marketing functions, but in the future, I don't think you'll have people who say I'm a digital marketer. They'll say I'm a marketer in a digital world. And so if you are a marketer today and you don't know these elements of digital, then you're going to kind of fail. So I think the training is one of the most important. The training takes care of the brief then, because if you train these people well, they know that you can only optimize on one thing and that you have to get the best metric. At the end of the day, the organization wants to know if marketing has added value to the business. And so the closer you are in proving that the marketing has sold more products or marketing has changed the perception about your product and your brand, and hence the assumption is that because the perception has changed, they have gone and bought more product, that is sellable. Other than that, telling a CFO or a marketing finance person who does budgeting that I got likes and CPM and engagement and stuff like that, I don't think is going to sell. Yeah. And you'll see a rapid reduction of your budgets very soon. Yeah.
Right. You know, I've read articles about the death of the CMO, you know, and the outsourcing of the CMO function. I'm looking over my shoulder here. You know, Ayesha, you know, there's a question coming in here, right, from Bodin.
Okay.
Do you think that pay-per-click and digital advertising in general is the war, or the more we spend, the more money, the more we win?
I don't think it's definitely. I definitely don't think it's the more money we spend, the more we win. I mean, we do need a healthy budget. You know, most of the time we're working with a really shoestring budget, and we kind of need to make it work. But having a clear plan of like objectives and in the beginning helps us create creatives that achieve that role. You know, how can we get people to click on this? You know, this kind of questions that we need to ask, because the conversion, for example, the conversion objectives were very clear from the start. And then we can place that ad on places where it's most likely to get conversions. And therefore we can, you know, funnel it down the creek, basically, easier. So I don't think you don't need like a lot of budget. I do think that you need to basically take trial and error, what works, and then optimize. And then therefore it might cost a little bit more in the beginning while you're, you know, testing it out, but eventually you kind of get into a what works scenario where you know exactly how much money you need to put in to reach X amount of people. So that's basically what I would say.
That's interesting, Jamshed. So I want to get your thoughts here as well, because, you know, we talk about money and you know, internally it's a finite number. We can't go there and say, listen, we have a VO and if we want another 30% budget, all the agencies will try and egg us on around that space, right? So what I've seen also throughout my career is that there's always this client agency dynamic, right? When the client will say, I don't care, you're my agency, right? Just get it done. And, you know, so for me, being both sides of the fence, what I usually look at is that I tell my team now as well, right, in MDEC, look at the numbers daily, right? What are you tracking here? So, you know, if you're looking at conversion, where are we sending them to? Is that landing page sticky enough? Do we have content to keep them there? Why are they bouncing out, right? But then the question is, then, you know, from some of the teams that I work across the region is, why are we doing that? Is the agency's role to be looking at that and telling us this? And the agency goes, no, I'm following the brief. You asked us to do it. I've done it. Now, do you want us to change? I'm like, duh, of course you have to change, right? Things are not working. I'm not seeing the numbers, right? And that seems to be the dynamic that's moving back and forth, back and forth. So Jamshed, to your point, who does the pivot when some things are not moving quickly enough, say on digital space, when you say marketing in a digital world, who advises on the pivot? Is it the agency or the client? Who looks at the daily movement?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of questions there, and I'll start addressing some of them. First of all, on the budget, if there is an outcome that's needed, and if it's mostly a media campaign based on past experience of using those media channels, you will know if you can achieve that goal within the budget that you've given. And I would say it's very important for both the marketer as well as the agency to be very upfront and say, this budget is only going to get us this. If there is no way this budget on a proper media plan is going to get us better, unless the creative is so you knock it out of the park, and then it's something that really people cry and laugh at it, and they're so emotionally touched, and it truly becomes viral because it's a great content piece. Now, those instances are extremely rare. But then you have channels like influencer marketing. You never know on influencer marketing where you're going to kind of land up. You can land up at a very high number, or you can land up at a very low number as well. So I would say that those things are really hard to predict. But on a media campaign, if someone tells me that they cannot estimate, that's wrong, because you will estimate and you will know what you have. And then if your budget is falling short, then you re-strategize and you figure out, for this budget, what's the kind of goal we can take. And then you recalibrate and come back to the brand, and the brand will understand. And then you have to set expectations with everybody, saying that for this budget, this is what we can achieve. So I think that is very important. I don't think saying get it done is going to kind of fly, because it's not going to get done. I mean, that's how it is. It's a science at the end of the day. The other thing is in terms of optimization and pivoting, right? I think it all depends on what kind of agency you're using. Are you using a full service agency? Are you using a social boutique agency? Are you using an agency that just does media? Now, if you're using an agency that just does media, they'll optimize on that media metric that you have told them. But what you can do is you can get their analytics team to work with your web experience team, and your web analytics team can, at the same time when the campaign is running, start churning reports to show that, hey, the landings are better when we switch these things. So it all depends on that. If the agency is a full service agency and does web analytics as well and is charging you for that, then yeah, they should be able to do that. In my recommendation to any brand is bring as much of your insights and analytics in-house as much as possible. Because the agency can optimize through algorithms and etc., but the actual insights in terms of taking action faster internally is much better at the client end. But that requires investment in data analysts who can actually churn out insights. And web optimization is actually one of the most underrated feature in campaigns. It can make or break a campaign. And people only focus on the media and the creative, but the landing page, I can tell you with some of the experiments you've done, things can double in terms of just performance by making a few cosmetic changes on your website. Yeah.
So that's really interesting, because then what it says is that, Ayesha, from your expertise, it also must ladder into an internal expertise, because it needs to land somewhere. You're absolutely correct. The stickiness, the traction that we get when you land, the user experience when you want someone to register needs to make sense, right? So that really then tells me that you must, there's no choice at these days when you are marketing in a digital world, then you need to build some capabilities and you need to upskill yourself as an in-house marketer. Before your agency is there to help you, give you that extra boost, right? Because of that muscle knowledge that comes in. So on your part then, Ayesha, as we talk about educating, both sides, right? The client is telling you about their business and where things are moving, because the agency is a jack of all trades for the most part, right? The client is a master of that particular trade. So as you bring in your people inside, I've been told, and I've seen the strat planners, very, very important, right? The media strat planners is very, very important. Can you talk to me about some of the successful campaigns, without mentioning the clients if you don't want to, that really has brought in the data for a client, and why did you choose a particular channel to collect the data to make a successful campaign? Perhaps, a very quick case study of a campaign.
just to touch on like basically the whole stickiness of it, right? So usually when we work with a new brand, what we usually do is we do an audit of the brand, right? We look at their digital journey. What are the loopholes that need to be kind of filled within that journey, and we inform the client basically like we need to fix this if we want to achieve this, right? So that kind of from the jump from a working relationship, we know there are things that we need to fix. For example, the website or getting an e-commerce lined up. So we need to fix those before we can basically have a sales KPI on social media. Example of a campaign that I would say, let me think. One thing that we've done before is that I think Jamshed mentioned it just now, was basically doing contextual ads. We actually worked with a brand to actually create contextual ads based on their mood, based on their preferences of, well, this is, I've mentioned that I actually worked on Spotify. So this is basically for Spotify, right? Oh yeah, so we basically did contextual ads that it can be generated to that person, particularly in the language that they listen to or that they speak. We actually churned out like 88 ads per week.
Wow.
And those are the kind of things that it's very hyper contextualized, where the person who, oh, this is the playlist that I was listening to, and now I see it on an ad. So now whenever I want, I can click on it and I can continue listening to that particular playlist. So those kind of things, it's hyper relevant. There's no way that if I saw it, I wouldn't basically feel something for it, because it's very personal to me. It's in the language that I speak. It's the playlist that I like, the kind of music that I like. So those are the kind of, I think the metrics that we should be looking at. I don't feel that Malaysia in particularly does a lot of those hyper contextual ads yet. It requires an insane investment. We're not all like global global media agencies, right? And I do find it challenging to actually sell that concept to Malaysian brands. It's not as if we haven't tried to replicate that for Malaysian brands. They just, either they can't commit to the churning out of 88 creatives per week, all those kind of numbers, and then getting those. How do we confirm those insights, or who do we even target those kind of contexts, right? Yeah, there's a lot of data that goes into it.
I think that's interesting because obviously they're brands and they're brands, right? Some brands have built it from day one. They invest in marketing and branding, right? And then building that name up with a core audience, and they're willing to give that a go. And others would say, no, let me try the slow and arduous way first before I put more money behind branding, right? And there are two thoughts there, but I'm getting one for you here, Jamshed, from Ham, no less. As we're talking about the delivery systems and how to optimize the process for whatever the objective, right? Which makes a lot of sense. We're trying to say, hey, let's go out and do that. Does this mean that a good creative could die if the process is faulty? Or can a good creative help with the process?
Both. If you're not careful, yes, you could make a mistake. And that's the reason why it's not completely automated, it's semi-automated. Someone has to have oversight on it. The other thing is that you could also look at other metrics, like if that particular creative is doing really well in a particular market. So suppose if you're doing a multi-country, and if it's not doing in a particular market, then maybe you see if there is something wrong there, it's not set up properly, or is it genuinely not working? So homogeneous markets, say for example, anything that works in, when I used to do APJ, anything that worked in US mostly worked in Australia. And anything that worked in Southeast Asia kind of countries, they kind of resonated mostly in Southeast Asia, unless they were very, very local or very, very specific. So you have to then look at the data manually also sometimes and see why is this happening. And sometimes you got to give it another try. Now, if it's just one market, I would say that try once more and then ditch it if it's not really working. To the other point on, you can do it the hard way where you can create 80 creators, or you can do it through software as well. So there are lots of vendors who are DCO vendors who just do this. You create one frame of the creative, and then it takes external inputs and dynamically changes the creative. That's why it's called dynamic content optimization. So of course, I don't know if I'm assuming that from Ayesha's answer is that not many brands in Malaysia may be investing in that, but that doesn't need to be invested at the brand level. Also, you can also request your media agency or your agency to use a vendor to do something like that. And so the Spotify example that Ayesha gave was exactly what I was referring to, is that it was contextual, it was optimizing on the creative and the person, but the metric was one only, was essentially, I'm assuming there it was either getting Spotify more downloads or essentially going to a specific experience within Spotify itself. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of Spotify when it comes to personalization and experience. They do one of the best jobs on that.
So another question to Ayesha here from Anon. If there's so many clients who have too little budget, why are things still so expensive?
When you say things are expensive, meaning the media buy is expensive or creation?
I suppose when we say, for any campaign, it's usually a mix, a 360 mix of, influencers, creatives, and so on and so forth. And the media buys really have not gone any cheaper, right? And, for the same amount of money that you spend, say 10,000 about 2 years ago on Facebook to 10,000 today, gets you a much lesser reach or impressions. I think we can see that happening already, right? Is this because the cost per click has gone up, or because there are hidden costs that the agency is taking out? Since we're talking about transparency.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that, again, expensive is a matter of perception. A smaller SME might think like 10,000 media budget is like, oh my gosh, right? But a bigger agency might be like 10,000, oh, only 10,000 budget, So it's a matter of perception. But I do feel that, the platform itself, definitely there's so much people vying for that same audience, right? You need something to actually push the limit, basically, to get your ad. For example, I did a social experiment where I mentioned mooncakes on Facebook, and in turn, within 5 hours, I was actually served 15 different mooncake ads, from Hilton, from Sheraton, 15 different mooncake ads. Which mooncake do I buy, right? And I think this is something that actually happens to everyday people. You're looking for a pair of earphones, and then you get Jabra, you get a Sonos or something like that. Like, who do you buy? Who do you go to? So I don't think it's a matter that it's expensive for just sake of being expensive. It's expensive because you are trying to buy my time. You're trying to buy my awareness of your brand, and other people are also trying to buy my time. So you have to compete with those people. And how do you compete? That's the question, right?
I think that's very eloquently put. You're trying to buy my time and attention, right? Yeah. Jamshed, so from where you are right now, what is your take on that? Should we spend the money to buy time and attention, or could potentially marketers in-house try and do their own campaigns, working in the first-party data, EDM, and the rest?
It depends on what industry and product. If you're in the B2B SaaS industry, you're selling subscriptions, possible. You can do it. If you're very consumerish product, then I think you have to spend the money. But even on the consumer side, you can still build a first-party data. base. And first party data, many people think that it's just email ID. Actually, if you read about the first party data and the cookies going away, it's the third party cookies that are going away. There is still going to be an ID for people who visit your website. There could be anonymous IDs, and that is getting decided right now, which technology will prevail, etc. But essentially, there is something called as data management platform that every brand should have, where it resides their first party data. And that's now getting converted into something called a CDP, which is essentially a central depository of first party data, which will then stitch that first party email or whatever cookie or ID with your media partner, and it will kind of target that particular customer. What is going away is the third party lookalike, where you build a larger cross section of your audiences. And hence, right now, if you truly want to embark and want to do digital marketing for the future, if you feel it's very expensive, you can obviously still do guerrilla marketing, or you can do offline marketing, whatever works for you. But frankly, to be honest, I mean, little money will get you little results and no measurement for those kind of things. So I rather you put in your money in something that can be measured and that has a higher success ratio. But if you want to be a digital marketing organization going forward, you have to build your first party data, be it you're an enterprise kind of product or be it a consumer kind of product. On the first party cookie or ID, those solutions will last for at least 2 years, where that ID is stored whoever visits your website for at least 2 years. Though that's the kind of arrangements that we are talking about. And so getting a little bit more knowledgeable about the first party data solutions is very, very important. And there are different solutions. There is email, there is, like I said, just IDs on the website. And all of this requires some kind of marketing technology investment at the brand's end.
So what would be the baseline MarTech investment? What is the stack looking like? What is an absolute must-have?
Yeah, good question. So you have the advertising cloud, which is essentially programmatic. Either it could be a Google solution, Adobe solution, or a Trade Desk solution, any kind of those kind of solutions. And you need to have, if you want brand safety, then you need to have some kind of brand safety solution where you make sure that there is no fraud on your digital advertising, your advertising is safe. That is the ad MarTech piece or the ad tech piece. Or I call it the advertising cloud. You have the experience cloud, which is essentially your web and social presence. Your experience cloud, I mean, Adobe is a great example of an experience cloud. So you have Adobe Experience Manager, Adobe Web, all that stuff, Adobe Target. You have other vendors as well in that space. Then you have your CRM, essentially, marketing automation, and there are lots of products there also. You have Eloqua, you have again Marketo from Adobe. So lots of that CRM. And then the last one is the sales management, which is like Salesforce and stuff like that. But then you have a lot of point solutions. And point solutions are like, say, for example, social listening. Social listening may require a social listening tool. Social publishing tool like Sprinkler at the back end to publish those things. Or it could require like video. How do you host a video on a website? Do you use YouTube or do you use Brightco, or then a webinar solutions? Do you use On24? Do you use any? So those are the point solutions, and you decide which point solutions you want. Now you can either rent the MarTech or you can buy the MarTech for a year, or you can rent it through an agency. So the agency has the licenses and you're using the agency infrastructure. So you're not necessarily, you have to buy all of it. But if you're a big brand, I would suggest you buy all of it in terms of at least for having the year licensing. Or you can leverage on the agency you're working with in terms of giving you the access. So these are, I would say, the basic MarTech stacks that any brand should start building.
So that sounds complicated for the average Joe in marketing, because he's not going to understand how to do all of this together, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of skill sets then are required, base level again, to look at this?
Yeah, so you need a marketing technologist, someone who understands marketing and understands technology. And they usually are people who have IT background, and they understand APIs and they understand integration of these, but they also understand why marketing is doing it. And these organizations are either called previous erstwhile IT organizations or business IT, or it could be a digital capabilities team, marketing capabilities team. They have different names depending on where you go. Yeah.
Okay, I've got two more questions. We got limited time left, so a quick sprint. Anonymous to you again, Ayesha. We all know that the more money we spend to advertise on social media, the better the reach, or we assume so. So how do SMEs advertise when marketing budget is really limited, especially in these times? What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is just go for the people that you really want, go for goals. You have a specific target audience that you're looking at. These are the customers that you feel that will benefit from seeing your ad and from using your product. Go for them, serve them an ad. If that fails, remarket them until they buy. I've seen a few brands from international brands who have been haunting me to buy their products for the last few months, and I finally will crack. I actually bought the product just to see what the fuss was about. And go, if you have a specific budget and you have you want to get results, go for those people that you want and just spend more money on remarketing and and try and get that.
Quick one for transparency's sake. Programmatic, social, how does that mix looking like for an SME with, say, X amount of dollars? How percentage wise, how would that be split?
Percentage across programmatic.
Should we go programmatic more? Should we go less on social? Social more to build community, programmatic to push funnel? How does it work?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if you are a brand that sells something, or if you're a brand that actually provides a solution, definitely you need that one, to build that community of people who actually would use your product and would use your solutions. So that's where social comes in. So social actually comes in to build that relevance. Then programmatic actually comes in for those something that you need them to do, that transaction between your audience that you've kind of built on social and your product. So it really depends on what your product is. So if it's something that, programmatic, you need to target, it's different for every single different target audience. For example, you have your target audience is zillennials, and then you have your millennials and your boomers. So you have different ad sets for all those kind of ads. Yeah, definitely you need programmatic. But if not, you can actually use social to kind of pull everybody together and craft your audience.
Jamshed, I'm going to throw one to you. TVC, also very high budget. More people are skewed towards online videos, FB and IG live. Do you think TVCs will phase out also when shooting in phase 1 are still not allowed? I mean, in terms of our, lockdowns, right? So, it's expensive to produce ads. Even the big brands are looking into moving into FB and IG. So what's your take on that?
I think there's a lot of developments on the TVC side. There's a lot of programmatic elements that have come in. There are a lot of trackable elements that have come in. There's lots of science and technology that has been added to that space. I don't think that it will completely go away. I think they'll have a space in the media mix. Incidentally, all these big brands like Google and all, they still advertise on television. I mean, they are the digital brands that are selling ads on television. So they see because there is still an audience that is not completely digital or not completely convinced. I don't know about the future. I mean, who knows? Maybe I definitely see that the Gen Zs they're completely unplugged. But it's not like they don't watch television. They watch television on different formats and on demand. So it's still kind of, you need that kind of advertising for that space. So I think it's going to be a part of the mix. I don't think it's going to be a part of going to completely go away. And by the way, just to add is that you can buy everything programmatically today, even social, or you can buy it separately. But if you're doing a full campaign and you're just going to use a lot of other media, then you can put social in the mix also by buying product programmatically.
Do we need to put pixels in our Facebook post and so on and so forth? Is that advisable to track, Ayesha?
Pixels actually go into your website. So definitely, if you do have a website that people need to land on to learn more information, you definitely need a pixel so that we can find you on Facebook.
Great. Okay, with 5:02, I just want to recap. So what we're saying is that data is important, insights are more important, right? It's how you look at the data, how do you connect the dots, and then drive a picture in terms of what does data all mean? And to that point, build your first-party data, right? Which means your website has got first-party data. Now with the cookie policies coming in place, you probably have to look at some software CDPs to track your first-party data. And once you have that, what you can do then is look at the channels of which you can, when the insights are there from this data, then you can kind of decide how to push it out, right? Because you already have that base. And what we're saying is that creatives are not dead. A good creative is a good creative. It still has a human emotional touch to it. It will tug, not touch you. And then we look at the distribution channels or maybe the community building channels or marketing channels, right? That you push it out to. And again, data is very important because you're tracking that. You're seeing the engagement on the type A, type B, type C, or you're looking at programmatic and banners and all that and seeing what are the data that is landing back on your website. Put a pixel on your website to track it, right? And see where that's going. And what I get finally is that remarket. If you're looking for SMEs and you want a end result, a tangible result, then it's remarketing. Get someone who understands that and tell your agency that. How do you build a brief? Understand that first. Understand lots of things on Google, understand your objectives. And then from the agency point of view, perhaps to push the envelope a little bit and say, hey, Mr. Client, when we do an audit, I need to know exactly what data you have, right? And so how we tie that agreement together, Jamshed, as we said earlier on, expectations need to be set up front, right? What are we measuring and how we want to do next, right? Is that kind of like how we can sum who's clear about data?
It's fantastic summary. Thank you.
Great. So we've come to the end of the fourth day. I'm sorry, Ashok. I'm missing the counts. Right, it's your shirt, man. You're confusing me with the grey and white. Thank you very much, Ayesha, Adam from MNC. Thank you, Saatchi, and thank you so much, Jamshed. And God bless. Hope your businesses go really big and wide from Singapore. We'll welcome you back in Malaysia when all of this is over. Audience out there, thank you for joining us. I think it's been a wonderful, useful conversation to have. Don't forget the videos are available on the Hubilo platform on Malaysia Tech Month. Tomorrow's our last day. Please do join us there again. Thank you for this series. We've come to the end of the 3 series, Helping Entrepreneurs Win. Shout out goes to Professor Ham and Marketing Magazine for helping us put all of this together. And Prof, I look forward to these articles appearing in your weekend edition. Yeah, so that people have access to this too. On that note, good evening. Stay safe. Thank you again, all panelists. Back to you, Asro.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Raymond. Yep, this shirt is just like the camo for new cars, to confuse people. All right, well, it's Digital Disruptors Week. Thank you, everyone, for those relevant insights and, well, generally something that people don't deep dive in, either internally within the organization or even with the clients. Thanks, Raymond, Ayesha, and Jamshed for the revelations. Participants out there, with that final session, we have concluded day 4 of the Digital Disruptors Week at MTM 2021. I'd like to thank everybody, all the speakers today, for powering our day with the outlooks, ideas, and insights on digital economy. Well, we invite the participants to join us tomorrow, 9 a.m. Meanwhile, do check out the agenda of these satellite events happening all around the MTM 2021 space, and also invite the participants to make use of the virtual networking lounges available. Recordings of all the sessions are available for you to watch out later on demand. So you're also welcome to reach out to the admin if you need some assistance. This is Hasro signing out for today. See you tomorrow, the final day of Digital Disruptors Week. Malaysia, the heart of digital ASEAN. Stay safe and goodbye.
Bye, guys.